So next we have best narrative, which is another combination category. This is a mixture of like best writing, best story, best dialogue, best kind of overall.
Yeah, best like delivery of its story.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can be involved in that.
Yeah.
So what we got? We have the Red Strings Club, Return of the Obra Dinn, God of War, Spider-Man, The Quiet Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Quarantine Circular.
Yes. Was that the name of that game? Quarantine Circular?
Subsurface Circular was the last one.
Oh, right. That's why I'm confused.
I did exactly the same thing. I wrote this in. I was like, is that the right one?
Yeah.
Is there nothing else we really need to add to this? I think that was kind of it.
That's kind of it for stories.
It wasn't a huge story year.
Yeah. Like, I wish I could put Danganronpa on it, but I can't.
Yeah. So Red Strings Club is there because I really wanted some cyberpunk this year, and Red Strings Club is
and Exapunks.
Yeah, but like traditional cyberpunk.
Rain and neon and long coats.
Red Strings Club delivered on a lot of that, and is actually a really interesting mechanic for delivering its story, where the main character runs a bar called Red Strings Club, and rather than just being a bartender, he's also a information merchant. So he knows he knows things. He has regulars in the bar who tell him things, and then sells those things to other people who might need them. And the way he does it is that there's a bartending minigame basically in it whenever someone comes to the bar, and you play on whatever emotions they are currently feeling. You basically make a cocktail based on targeting those emotions to then pull information out. And it starts very easily as like, oh, this person's obviously not happy with some part of their life.
Yeah.
So you make the category, there's only one option, and you build a cocktail for that. But there's a couple of them is like, it's one of these 5 things, like based on the conversation you've had, build a cocktail that makes sense for these, and extract the information, and all that stuff's really, really cool. And then there's the kind of overall story with the kind of Android rebellion, and there's the AI stuff. The whole thing is kind of just genuinely good cyberpunk story wrapped up in some really cool dialogue as well. That's really well written, actually. Obra Dinn's interesting, where the story itself is. I think I talked about this in the podcast, but when you actually piece the whole thing together, like the story of the Obra Dinn is, fuck me, that boat had a hard journey. Like that's the story.
Heard a lot of shit.
Yeah, and the whole the kind of the goal being like, how did all these people die is core of it.
Yeah.
But whether that counts as narrative,
I think the power of Obra Dinn is the way that it tells its story.
Yeah,
more
I think
than
that's
it is
why
the
it's
actual
on
story.
there. It's the mechanics of like, here's a way for you to tell a story purely based on these vignettes, like static vignettes.
It's story through player discovery. It's a very hard thing to do when any player can do anything.
Totally.
But when you present them with a set of rules and a mystery, the player will inevitably want to solve that mystery.
So I may be shooting myself in the this may warrant it to take it off the list, but the actual ending of that game was surprising, and not in a good way. Where the book that you're filling out, we've talked a lot about this game on the podcast, so you go back and listen to see what it's about. The book that you're filling out with everyone, there's a chapter that's basically locked in that book that says like, this chapter you'll fill out when you go back to shore after you leave the boat. And
is that the bit at the back that's like when you filled out the rest of it?
But it's in the middle. It's in between 2 chapters. It's in between like the last and third to last chapter. It's right in there. And to get the final ending, when it rains on the boat, signal that like, you've seen it. You now have all the information. You can just do this. If you fill out everyone else in the book and then leave the boat and go back to shore, you get another section where you're at a desk in a house, and your housemaid or your person who looks after the house, your housekeeper says, hey, there's a package for you, and this does the thing where it's like the black screen, you just hear it through audio, like, hey,
it's just the words on the screen thing. It's
like, hey, there's a package for you. She dumps it and the package, and then it cuts back, and it's the package is on the table in front of you, and it's the book and a shriveled hand on the table, and you're like,
Yeah.
what is all this? And you touch the book, or you go and get the stopwatch thing.
Yeah.
And you hover over the book, and the book takes you back, and it basically fills in the chapter in the middle. A couple of extra vignettes of like, here's where the chest ended up. Here's where the captain was for some section where he just disappears.
Right.
It fills in a little bit of story. But the problem with that is that, like, when I saw that ending, where I backed my way through the final ending, because I couldn't do the Star ones. I saw it ending, I was like, okay. Like, I think I know what was going on. That extra section hasn't really added much to it.
Mm.
Have I missed something? And then I went back and looked at a couple of articles and was like, here's the story of Oberdin in chronological order as it happened. I was like, oh yeah, I basically got it right.
Yeah.
And that epilogue didn't do much.
Oh, okay.
And I was
weird.
like, oh, okay, that's strange. Fair.
Yeah.
But the cool thing was, like, they give you these 3 items. These 3 items are sent to you because they're involved in these final scenes, and a hand is from the captain's first mate, who hand in the chest and is like, ripped it off him basically, and because it's connected to the moment he died, there's an insinuation that person knows about the power of the stopwatch, so that he removed his own hand so that could then be the story of the boat could then be told. And it's I wasn't some of that might be conjecture on my part, but like that's what it felt like.
Sure.
I will say though, there was a moment where I should have actually written the best moment. Like, it wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
But there's a great moment where one of the things you have to find, one of the people you find is so for every person you have to find what their name is, how they were killed, and who killed them.
Yeah.
Or if they escape, or if they're still alive,
missing,
and where they are is the other thing. And there's a name that you get the name, but you're like, well, it looks like they just ride off in a boat. So how the fuck am I supposed to know where they are? Like, there's no clues or anything like this. And then I was looking, one of the guides that you can get, I think it's linked on Steam, it's like a hints guide. It's like 3 levels of hints here of like if you're stuck. One of them is like, it's in the book, just read it. Flicking through the book, and you get to the very, very first page of the book with the letter that says, like, please do this for the ship, like the handwritten letter that's part of it, that's like, here's part of the ship, signed this dude. So the guy who escaped is the guy that sent you the book. So you know his name, you know where he is because you know where it came from,
right? And
it filled in that whole section. So it was using the book in like this other third way that you didn't really get. It was kind of cool. God of War is just like,
God of War is a really good story.
It's a really good start to finish.
Yeah, a really complete, solid story with like good twists, solid turns, good action. Like, it's just all around good story.
And there's also
really, as a kind of big fan of like Norse myth and Norse stories, the cool version that they do on a lot of the stories, specifically with people like Balder and with people like Freya.
Yeah,
is really cool.
Well, because I remember when we were finishing, you'd worked out the twist with Atreus earlier.
Yeah, you can figure it out pretty quickly if
you're up on your Norse mythology.
So if you're up with Norse myth, you know that Loki's full name in Norse myth, Loki, Lofri's son.
Yeah.
Which, when Kratos talks about his wife, calls her Faye.
Yeah.
Which is short for Lofri, so you kind of get it from there. Because I think that one of the moments in the Pillar of Light scene, someone calls her Lofri.
Yeah.
And the second that went like that, and I went, oh, it's Loki. Right, that's fine. It was a really cool story. That the twist at the end I thought was really cool. I knew it was coming, but I still thought it would be a cool thing for people that didn't know.
And as somebody who didn't know it that well, like the kind of slow drip feed of like, wait, what is happening here was pretty good. And also, like, it says a lot that it was well done, where the section of the game where Atreus is being moody didn't grate me as much as it could.
Yeah, sure.
Partly because I felt like at that point it was kind of warranted, and also like he was enough of a character at that point that was like it felt like it worked and didn't feel kind of like were falling back on the tropes of moody teenager. Like it felt
it felt
was well done.
Yeah, it felt like that character had a right to be like that.
Yeah.
I really like having Mimir with you the entire time.
He was great.
He's amazing voice acting.
I also say, like, at this point, 2018 was a good year for Scottish voice actors.
Yeah, it was.
It seemed like every game I played had at least one who was either doing a very, very good accent or was Scottish.
Yeah.
Mimir was up
Mimir's
there.
an excellent one. The group of people from Ni no Kuni 2 who are also Scottish. The weird druidic people are also pretty good.
Yep.
But yeah, having Mimir with you the entire time, who is there to not only act as like a combat help thing of like calling people out, but as the world flusher. He's there for lore purposes.
Here's the history of the world. Yeah.
Here, let me tell you about Jormungandr and all that sort of things. Like all these is a really good idea, because again, if you know like the Norse myth where Odin keeps Mimir's head alive to tell him secrets, really good kind of flip of that.
I think for me, like, it succeeds because it sounds really bad, but I didn't hate Atreus. And I think that's an accomplishment, because like it's very easy to write children characters badly, and even like the little bits of like the first time you have a combat sequence with Atreus, and you like do like some like horrific smash on the last guy, and he's like, "Dad, I think you got him."
Yeah,
was like even that was pretty funny.
He's a very well written character, and like
the scenes
he develops and grows very well through the whole
scenes
story.
On the and again like the other part of why we use best narrative rather than just like writing, is the execution of the narrative. Like the amount of work that must have gone into planning the ability for a story that you're telling on a boat go between an action scene. So like you'll tell a story on the boat, you'll get up to the shore, and Kratos will be like, finish this later.
Yeah.
You'll do a whole small side quest thing and get back on the boat, and Kratos will be like,
where was I?
Tell me more about the thing, and he'll cut back into it. Like there was one other game that this year did that, was I think Red Dead's pretty good at it as well.
Yeah, Red Dead does it too.
But the way they've recorded those lines and the way that they can basically pick up from any line and it sounds right is supremely really impressive. Yeah. And it's one of those subtle things that is probably immensely difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
But if it works, you just don't notice it.
I guess, it's one of these like really subtle things that
especially in a game that's all about like where it's important to know the lore of the world.
Yeah. It's also it's a game kind of explicitly about like stories and like the power of like legend and all that, like gods, and
it solves that problem that I've always had in those games where it's like, I don't want to land this boat in case there's more dialogue.
Yeah.
And it just,
but you know you're gonna get it.
We'll get you there. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I really enjoyed that.
Yep.
Spider-Man's an interesting one.
Spider-Man's just a great superhero story.
It is very much one of those stories.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that pulls it off for me is like the animation of the characters.
Yeah.
And like actually, you know what, the moment with the medal ceremony where that
with
thing
the explosion,
takes a turn, like that went darker than I expected it to.
It goes
like,
real dark.
I did not expect them to just kill that character off.
Yeah.
And be like, no, this is how this goes. Like this is
Gotcha. I like that they didn't fall into the trap of having to do a Spider-Man origin story.
Totally.
Like when you arrive at that story, he has been Spider-Man for years, or like a couple of years at this point, and so is very familiar with everything.
But you also do get a pseudo origin story
in Miles.
With Miles.
Yeah.
So you get both.
So you get
at the same time.
You get the kind of the side origin of like this other character that isn't the main character is going through his own stuff.
Yeah.
Leads to him being into Spider-Man as opposed to this other person where you're stepping into the shoes.
Yeah.
And just like from the very first thing in that movie where game where you jump off a building and you're swinging, like it's just that reflected in the story where it's just like you're ready to go, you're Spider-Man, Sinister Six show up, Silver Sable.
A lot of the other things, like I think that's the weaker part of this for me is like all of the kind of Sinister Six stuff.
Yeah,
was very kind of rote superhero stuff. Yeah, because that's actually not what it's about.
Heroes breaking out of the the fridge. What's it called?
Yeah, the fridge.
Okay, yeah, the heroes the villains breaking out of that jail has been done a billion times in the comic books because it's the easiest way of going. Here's all these supervillains. But
it was weird that it was not weird. Like it was. I understand why they were there.
Yeah.
From a gameplay point of view, but like for me, the villain part of that stuff was like the fall of Doc Ock.
Yes.
And being like,
yeah,
watching him turn.
Yeah,
because
he was the most interesting thing about
anyone who's like all familiar with Spider-Man lore like knows who he is the second he's introduced.
Yeah.
So you're like,
the second he says his name is Octavius.
Exactly.
You know who
and
he
you're like,
is,
so how does he get from this to that?
Yeah.
And you see that happen really, really well.
And it makes sense. And it's
The only other thing for me that was a minor issue for me was like, I kind of didn't like. I wasn't a huge fan of bits of Kurt and Mary Jane's relationship. Like,
oh sure,
there was like, I liked the original thing of like, oh, this whole story is about them. Like, they've done the breakup.
Yeah,
and they're gonna like, this is them dealing
Move
with being grown ups. But like, and I understand it is part of the Spider-Man character.
Yeah,
but like, you're moping about it was handled quite. There's a couple. I really like the moment where he's upside down with the text conversation.
That's really good.
Screen.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
That's really good.
Yeah.
But also like the bit which is like he's constantly trying to win her back, and it's like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot with your own message here, and this is not like a good. This is not a good look for you. Or like
anybody
in
this
like
situation.
you don't actually want to say like no if you just persevere it'll be fine. Like no, like it's done. Like stop.
You need to move past it.
Yeah.
But the little things that I liked, which is like conveying a story thing, was when you're constantly talking on the phone in that game, like to different people around the city. Thing that I liked, it's a tiny little thing, but I thought it was so good. Where if you're having a conversation while swinging, Peter sounds like he's struggling. Like he has the kind of hold back in his voice because he's swinging on the rope.
Or if you're fighting at the same time.
Or if you're fighting. But if you're sat still on a roof, he talks perfectly normally. It's just a little
and again,
tiny thing.
It's like the God of War moment where like that's double the work.
Yeah.
For such a minor thing that
you have to record to. Yeah. It's a great.
It's an awesome moment. Yeah, it really is. Quiet Man.
Nope.
Let's talk about
Nope.
Red Dead.
Okay.
Does that follow?
So here's what I'm gonna say about Red Dead.
Okay.
Red Dead Redemption 2 has some of the best voice acting, has some of the best character work, has some of the best character development, has one of the best stories that has been told in video games.
Okay.
The way it tells it is complete dog shit.
Yep.
Because it tells basically the entire story in 2 to 3 chapters.
You didn't need the first.
It's not that you didn't need it. It's that everything that was in those first few chapters are so minor.
Yeah.
And it's all about, those first few chapters are about you watching Dutch and watching Arthur's reaction to Dutch. The thing that matters later is how that changes. The important thing is all at the end where Dutch has become a monster and like kills people for no reason and does all that bad stuff and how Arthur reacts to that. Like there's a bit in the later chapters where you go to one of Leviticus Cornwall's like oil plantations and burn it to the ground for basically no reason. Well, it's kind of a reason where Dutch is like playing the Native Americans against the army, but it's a weird thing. But you get into a situation where Arthur's trapped and Dutch walks away and doesn't help him. So Arthur gets out because one of the Native Americans helps him and goes to Dutch on the outside and says, "You left me." And Dutch just goes, "Oh, no, I didn't." And Arthur doesn't.
He's just so in his own world.
He has no idea how to react to that, so he doesn't call him out. He doesn't say anything. He just moves on because his head is so fucked at that moment. Which is great. But again, that only works because of like 2 or 3 scenes from the first 4 chapters of the game that are just like little things that are thrown in about the group and about Dutch and about the relation to like Hosea and all that stuff. Like I was saying to the both of you before, if that game was like the first couple of hours of the first chapter, like one bit out of chapter 3, the end of chapter 4, and then chapter 6 and 7, great. Like solid story.
It ties a lot into like my problems with Red Dead is like nobody at any point in that process said no to anything.
No,
it's kind of like the Housers and David Cage are 2 people who desperately need editors. Somebody to come in and say like, how about we not do this terrible story, David?
I think David Cage just needs an editor incentive to take all the stuff and put it in a fire. Just
like, maybe that's the editor is like,
no, David, no.
Don't make the android sit at the back of the bus.
No,
that's a bad,
don't put the androids on the bus.
Over here.
Don't make them write "We have a dream" on the wall,
no,
David. No, that's not. Yeah.
But like, yeah, it feels like that game did not need to be the size it did or the length it did. It feels like it's padding it.
Yeah, I think they're giving, because a lot of the stuff that happens in the story is unlocking side stuff.
Yeah,
you're unlocking like
there's a lot of
places to sell your wagons and all that stuff.
Here's fishing
and all that stuff. The fishing scene's great. I love the fishing scene.
But it also does like at the fishing scene was the first time where it's like, as far as you're concerned, the mission is like take Jack fishing.
Yeah,
you're like, cool, let's go learn fishing with Jack and let's interact with Jack.
Yeah,
and then that's the first point where that story turns and it's like the Pinkertons
and that's
show
a great moment.
And it's an awesome moment. But once you burn that, the lead into the end of chapter 3 where you have to move is another one of those. Let's go rustle the cattle. And then that leads into the fight in Valentine, which then leads into them having to leave.
Is the end of? Are you talking about the end of chapter 3 or end of chapter 2?
The point where you have to move from the overlook to the other base.
On the first time?
Yeah, the first time you have to move.
Sure, that's the end of chapter 1.
But again, that starts. That starts from like, let's go rustle these cattle.
Yeah.
To
oh shit.
End of chapter 3, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it's one of the. It's like you can only really do that once. Like it's the quiet moment from Metal Gear 5. Where you're like, I'm doing a side op, boom, no you're not.
Yeah.
Like, that works once, but if you keep doing that, it's not the same.
But you're totally right. The narrative falls apart when they tell it so slowly.
Yeah.
But it is amazing. Like, that story that's told is so amazing. Great. And it's acted so well. And it's, there is everything except how they tell that story is amazing. Yeah. It's just how they tell that story really hinders it so badly. And the fact that they put Guarma, they put chapter 5 right when that story kicks off, right when that story gets
to knock
good.
You back down again.
At the end of chapter 4, when that bank heist in Saint Denis goes wrong, and Hosea dies, and Lenny dies, and everything starts to go wrong, and everything unravels, and Dutch starts to go nuts. That's really when he starts to go insane. Yeah. And then you get on that boat to Cuba, and you get caught in the storm, and you're in Guarma for 2 hours. It's such a pace killer.
Totally.
And there's only like one moment in that I think they can reflect on the rest of the story, and it's a moment where Dutch kills a native woman for like no reason, like just chokes her out and like slams her head against the wall, and like you go to him and say, "What the hell are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, she was going to betray us. Couldn't you tell?" Right. And Arthur goes, "No."
So it's the only bit that I saw was again just at Christmas, the swamp section, which I hadn't seen any of. There's a scene where like you're supposed to get I don't know what the setup for it was, but you basically go into this big house and kidnap this dude.
Yeah, the Braithwaite thing. Yeah.
And then you're on the boat escaping, and like he gives you mouth and like offers the rest of the thing. Like,
that's thingy, the crime lord. Yeah.
And he says like, "Oh, I'll pay anyone who'll kill Dutch here," and nobody turns.
Angelo Bronte. Yeah, that's his name.
And Dutch just fucking drowns him in the swamp.
Yeah.
And you're like, where the fuck did that come from?
The interesting thing about that is like the Angelo Bronte thing is like that's a character that Dutch kind of looks up to,
right?
Whereas like you meet him and he has a lot of money, but he's done it all through crime, but he's still respected in the city.
He's what Dutch wants to be.
And he like invites them to a party at the mayor's house, and they go and live in high society, and Dutch is close like taken with him, but then immediately flips and is just like. Obviously, he can't stand it because he doesn't like anybody who's got more power than him or more money than him. So kills him for like no reason.
Right.
And at the end of that scene, John is the person that says like, I think the line is like, "Where in your philosophy does it say?"
That's what it is. Yeah.
Drowning a man is good. And he says
it doesn't.
It says something like it's in there somewhere.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah. It's great. Right.
But also, there's a real. Again, it's the strong moments of that game, but there's that scene that I watched again without any of the backstory.
Yeah.
Where like. Dutch is like right up in this dude's face and drowns him, and nobody says anything until he's back on the boat and they're established he's dead and that there's nobody else watching. That's the point where everyone goes, "The fuck!" Like they are entirely behind him until the moment that until they're on their own, and it's like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it was good. Yeah, Quentin Circular's on here. Like it's not gonna win any of these, but
it's a cool story. Like I heard what the story was.
Right,
it was interesting.
So the setup is that like there's been a plague that's wiped out a lot of the human race and is continually to wipe out more and more of it. It's waterborne. So you're on a research station offshore on a little platform.
Yeah.
Doing research. The first character you play as is just like the mechanic. And the whole thing is dialogue, and it works using the text of the way Subsurface Circular did, because everyone's speaking a different language in the universal translator.
Yeah.
Seeing all this happen. And the story turns up that like set up this initial thing, and then someone falls from the sky and it's an alien.
Yeah. And
he gets off the ship and was like, I know how to solve the plague, but I'm trapped here, and I'm doing this against... They basically fill in the kind of this sci-fi story that you've kind of heard before, and is a little bit Mass Effect-y, of like, there is a group out there of a bunch of aliens who are basically the council from Mass Effect, and they're like,
right, yeah.
And they're like, we're watching the humans, but they fucked us bad. So
is it like that when you want them to join the galactic?
No, it's like we can't interfere because
right, okay,
we can't let them know we're here.
Yeah,
we can't, in case this thing transfers to us.
Yeah,
they're on their own. They fuck this. This is their bed. Let them sleep.
Yeah.
And then this guy is the alien who crashes is a part of a group that's been watching the humans. Is like, we can fix this. We know how to fix this, but we're going against the council, and we're going against like every universal rule out there.
Yeah,
we have to do this silently and get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So this dude crashes to Earth and is like, I know how to solve this thing, but I need cover for when these dudes appear, because they're on their way and you have a limited amount of time.
Sure.
And the way the narrative works is there's a couple of branches in there as well of like how you incubate the solution to the phage, of like, he can do it to himself, which will take him out after he's helped all of you, and then you've lost contact with everyone up there.
Right.
Now that you know that they exist.
Yeah.
There's like, you can sacrifice yourself. The doctor can get involved.
I thought you were a robot.
No, you're in a suit. You're in a suit. You're in a hazmat suit. Everyone is human. The only alien in a suit as well.
I'm getting confused between Subsurface again.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, but the reason why I wrote it, one of the main reasons I wrote it on, was not just because of the varying paths, and like some of those decisions in there are real well done.
Yeah.
But also the initial conversation between you as just like this, as an engineer on the platform, like you just fix shit.
Yeah.
But you're the first person that interacts with the alien.
Okay.
Because you're fixing the shield that's around it or something like that. And there's this cool moment of like watching the AI work out how to translate this language it's never heard before.
Yeah.
So trying these words, and it's coming back in like, there's a section in the middle where you teach it how to rhyme. Like literally like what rhyming is, because their language doesn't have it, and you're doing it through this universal. It's just really well written. Sure. It's what that game does. It's the one thing that game does, and it does it really, really well. I just really like that.
Yeah.
The writing in that.
So what do we think?
I think we need to sort the Red Dead problem, and then
that's not
in. Okay.
Everything I'm saying about how good that is killed by how badly it tells it.
Fair enough.
I love the story that it tells, and I would love talking to people about it, about all the little things in that story.
I think if this was like best story, but narrative includes execution.
Yes, and the execution is very poor.
Okay.
So I mean, this is God of War.
Yes. This is probably Oberdin.
Yes, I agree. The story itself is very basic. Yeah. The way it tells it is so novel,
and it's surprising as well, because it starts like it does the Lucas Pope thing of like, it takes such a mundane, like, I've tried to explain this game to people. If you do it literally, you end up saying that like, okay, so you're an insurance adjuster in 1876, and you have to go on board and work out the final
death
cost,
toll of
the death toll for the, and you're like, the fuck. But then once you get in it, and like after the first initial couple of like, there was a mutiny.
The first couple of bodies that you check, where it's like the captain killing the first mate and stuff, really gives you a really good idea of how that game works and where the narrative direction is going. The way that it tells that story is really novel.
And then it's when the Kraken appears, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Right.
So the chapter after that, when you go down one deck and you see the tentacles coming through.
So then when you go down another deck and the spider creatures appear, and you're like, what the fuck happened? And then so the other thing I'll say, like in terms of talking about narrative, there's a section when you're in the hold of the boat, and there's two moments. You're in the hold of the boat, and the memory kind of disappears and goes into a room where there's no body,
Oh, the little sprite thing.
Yeah, the sprite goes in and it goes into one of the back rooms and there's nobody and stops.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what the fuck? There's a moment where like as you're panning around, when you point thing at a body, it flicks open.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I have the thing in it, I'm just kind of scanning around the room. I go to one of these barrels and it flicks open.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck. You hit it. There was a person trying to not hitchhike, but like stow away on the boat and hid in a barrel.
Yeah.
Get on the boat, and it cuts to like before the ship's left port, and it's like them loading the barrels on, and one of the guys, I don't think you got to this stage, but there's a section from a couple of chapters before of like, your fault, my brother's dead, which is a really good, useful, like, oh, so that's his brother, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But it jumps back to this section, and they're dropping all these barrels into the hold, and the rope snaps, and it kicks these barrels down, and the moment it kicks in is the barrel hitting the floor.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so I've never seen what this guy looks like ever, but he's named and there.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit. But now that you know him, that has happened, and when you get there, there's a body over there, and that goes literally 3 seconds before as the thing crashes down, takes out the guy. And you're like, oh fuck, right, okay.
Clever.
It's super fucking smart. So then the other part of this is there's a section where the body else that leads you out onto the deck of the boat, and there's 3 bodies appear next to each other, wrapped. Boat, like more care has been taken than just like remain. 3 bodies there. You use the stopwatch on one of them, and you're just in the middle of the sea.
Yeah.
With 2 rowboats. Like just in the middle. There's no boat. There's no big boat. It's 2 rowboats in the middle, and there's like fucking mermaids, and the chest is there, and the 2 Asian passengers that are there.
Yeah.
They're there shouting shit in Chinese at each other, and you're just like, what the fuck happened? And you're just walking along over the surface of the water, like looking round and different.
Yeah.
Well done.
What's the third?
God, like I said, I like a lot of things about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like it's
just a
superhero
story.
I just really like what Red Strings Club did in this really small.
It sounds like that has a cool story to tell and a cool way of doing it.
Cool way of doing it.
Yeah. I'm fine with that top 3.
And again, variations on it as go a couple of different ways as well. So it's God of War, Obra Dinn, and Red Strings Club.
Yep.
It's probably God of War.
I would agree.
I think
the story of Return of the Obra Dinn is a really cool narrative device, but not a great story.
Sure, it's a very
Red Strings Club has both, where it's a cool mechanic and a cool story. So told.
Yeah, totally. It's just it's not as
God of War has so much.
It does, and again, it's the perpetual problem we have in doing these awards, right? Is that like, I mean, of course, the God of War has the better thing because it has a AAA budget and can do all of that.
Yeah,
but I think even
outside of that, they've gone above and beyond. Yeah,
I think so. I think I'm fine with that.
With not just like the main story, but all of the side stuff, the amount of just sheer lore and mythology that they put into that,
and also not being a slave to the mythology, like taking it and doing their own stuff with it.
No, like I say, that like the stories that they choose to pick from, specifically like Baldur, I'll keep coming back to Baldur, is an amazing inversion on what that character is.
Yeah, for sure.
And how he dies and all that. Yeah, it's great.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so that is God of War is the best narrative, with Return of the Obra Dinn and the Red String Club as runners up.
Yep.
Good.
Cool. So then we have our nod to the rest of the world and the most important news, which is a very pretentious title.
This is just like the thing that outside of a specific game we talked a lot about this year, or I think was important to the medium as a whole.
I've just remembered what this first thing is about.
Yeah.
So we have the start of the Overwatch League, or the OWL, as it's called.
OWL.
The Cyberpunk 2077 reveal, which, oh my fucking god.
Yeah.
The ArenaNet firings, IGN plagiarism, Rockstar's 100-hour work weeks, closing of Telltale, and the launch of the Epic Store.
Yeah.
Now, the return of the Overwatch League, is this just the DJ Khaled concert? Is that the...
I'd completely forgot about that.
Oh, really?
No. For me, that was funny as hell.
It was so good.
But,
it was so great. I've never seen an entire arena more dead to what the hell is going on stage than watching.
Was it better or worse than the guy that did the Rage 2 concert at the
Andrew WK?
Yeah.
About the same.
Was it about the same?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Like, yeah, because in the Andrew WK concert, there looked about 2 people that were into it.
Yeah.
And about the Owl, there were about 2 people that were into it.
Okay.
Whereas everybody else was just like, oh.
Okay.
Every
Fair
time DJ Khaled did songs and said, like, and put your hands up, no one put
Nobody
their
put their hands up? Yeah, okay.
It was so
That's
great.
fair.
Sorry, what were you actually talking about?
For me, it was like, this felt like, as a person who doesn't really watch a lot of esports, like, it felt like the most legitimate esports has ever got, where like
yes, it was very Blizzard presentation.
Yeah, like
it
Blizzard
was so clean.
Blizzard
like,
putting their presentation and their like literally money behind making this thing look good,
yeah,
and presentable, and doing like trying at least attempting, if not successfully, attempting to solve some of the problems that esports has to a wider audience who just are used to sports.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, this is the London team.
Yeah,
like, none of these
city names.
None of these people are from London, but
Yeah.
it's a London team that you can root for because you're from London.
Called Spitfires.
London Spitfires.
Yeah.
What's the new one that's pink?
I can't remember.
They
the
launched the
teams.
new team this
Yeah.
year. Is it Singapore, I think?
Maybe.
I
I can't remember.
But like they started to make roads into like, here's how we do this in a way that people who don't
Franchising.
watch
Yeah.
esports can get into. And like they still have some problems to solve, like transfer windows and that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is like, and also there are wider esports conversations about like how do you maintain a team,
Yeah.
and like fair pay and all these kind of stuff.
Yep.
But like is the closest that it feels like excuse me, sports have come to like being a thing that you could be on ESPN or
Yeah,
like,
totally.
sports.
You
or
could see
whatever.
you could see like ESPN2 saying like, here's the Houston was it Excelsior versus London Spitfires, and
the presentation was good, and it felt like it was a
the
watchable thing.
presentation was like super clean.
Yeah.
Like it was just
The fact
really distinct colors.
Like-
The fact that they got team colors on the models in
Yep.
the game, and yeah,
it was almost legible as to what was happening, which
Yeah.
is difficult. In the
very
first person.
difficult. Yeah,
Like part of this also was almost like, hey, Blizzard bought a stadium.
yeah. They
this
got
year,
the Blizzard Stadium.
There's now a Blizzard Stadium.
Yeah,
Which is ridiculous. Cyberpunk 2077. This is both parts of this for me.
right.
This was the E3 reveal,
Yeah,
which was like, oh shit,
with
this
that,
is
that song
with
and-
with that hyper track,
Yeah.
and just the this is everything I wanted it to be
Yeah.
moment. Of
It
like,
was it was the same for me, but it was that tacked on with them saying this is the people that made The Witcher 3,
totally.
and now look what they're doing.
Yeah.
I went, oh,
This is the most ambitious thing that, and it's
Yeah.
exactly. It looked the way it did. It wanted it to look. It looked like it was dealing with the parts of Cyberpunk that you don't normally get, that you want.
it's the perfect parts of Cyberpunk which are the most interesting, which is
Yeah.
the whole corporate dynamic and
So like,
little guy versus the big guy, and yeah,
like no shit. I watched that trailer like 20, 30 times.
Oh, yeah.
To get
Hell
as
yeah.
much out of it as I could.
yeah,
So there was that at E3.
yep,
Then like as you listened to outlets talk about the demo they saw,
Oh, yeah.
and then being like, people that don't exaggerate this stuff were going like, no, people need to see
you need to
this
see
thing.
what this is, yeah,
And then feeling that like because of what happened to the Witcher 3 demos originally,
Yeah.
where it changed as games do between the trailer and what came out, that like there's no way we're ever going to see this.
Yep.
We're just never going to see this thing, and it's a waste, and it's all your fault.
yeah.
Gamers with a Z.
But then sure enough,
And then they dropped the actual gameplay trailer.
they had a really cool teaser thing for a Twitch stream,
Yep.
and then sure enough, it was like
So-
an hour-long gameplay demo.
And for me, that was a thing where, because that started the Twitch stream
yeah,
started at like 4-ish our time, 4
Yeah.
p.m.-ish our time, and then the gameplay started at 6.
yep,
And I was like, I was still in work at
and
that
I was
point.
at home,
We
yeah,
were at home, and I started watching. I was like, no, fuck this. I switched off the stream. I went home. I got food, and I
Yeah.
sat here and put it on that big screen and watched the whole thing,
Yeah.
like start to finish, with my wife behind me going, "Oh, this is cool because it does." And she
Yeah.
doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But like, it was so cool to actually like. It was such a big event.
yeah.
for me,
It was a really big moment.
and it was like, oh no, here's like, and it like
It was a kind of, watching that gameplay trailer was a kind of like, not vilification, but a kind of confirmation that they're treating it right.
And it was
Like it was
it
was the fact that going through that gameplay demo and like looking at all the stuff where it was all everything was corporate advertising, everybody was using the right cyberpunk slang.
Yep.
They were talking about like wet work and all the good cyberpunk things, and then you get shit on an emission by the corporations.
And you can also see the ties to like, no, this looks kind of similar to like the type of stuff they did in Witcher in terms of storytelling. So they're taking their own skill set into this.
Yeah.
And I think the thing for me at the end of that gameplay then was all of it looked potentially doable. Like my worry was going to be like, we came out of that thing and it was like, this is the most vertical of vertical slices, and this is all of this game that exists. But all of that looked like they're showing us like very controlled demo. But it feels like it's a thing they could actually build.
Yeah, you feel that there are more things going on around it that could be
and also
real
it
things.
felt like they were doing the smart thing of building a world they could add bits onto, where like I think Cyberpunk 2077 is their game for the next 5, 6, 7 years, where they just add stuff onto that world.
Sure. Well, I mean, if it was anything like The Witcher 3, the 2 DLC expansions for The Witcher 3 are phenomenal.
But like I'm talking about, it's not even like, here are the two, here's the season pass that can have these 2 DLCs.
Yeah.
Like I'm imagining like there will be a sequel to this game in the same world.
Oh, right, sure.
Like that just adds in a whole chunk of new story on because they built this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
incredible. The arena firings.
That was just like a kind
sad
of
situation.
That was such a depressing situation to watch, and it happened a couple of times this year, especially with the happened again very, very recently with the Spider-Man suit stuff, where was a company. Okay, this wasn't so much the Spider-Man stuff, but like a company reacting very near-jerky to a very vocal minority of people who just like vilify somebody who's doesn't deserve what happens. And it was depressing to watch them, 1, do it, 2, defend it, and 3, never apologize for it. Or like say anything, because all that
they doubled down on it
and all that did, from my point of view, was give flames to the fire of like anyone who took part in that campaign against those two were like, this works, we'll do it again. And it was really depressing to watch.
IGN plagiarism.
This was just weird. Like
this was such a strange moment,
and it was bizarre to watch. Like
they kept building. It was
like a site like IGN, you have let this happen and then for it to be like, no, this guy's done this before multiple times, and
we now have to go through. Eliminate his entire existence and re-review all this stuff.
That was the other part of this that was interesting, is like, as much as IGN may have like the process might not have been followed for what happened here, like at least their response was correct. And they did the right thing, where basically like, well, if this guy's done this once, basically every bit of criticism he's done is essentially null and void before this point, because we have no idea anymore. And it was confirmed by people going, oh, actually this video takes chunks from my other video, which I did, and it was such a bizarre thing to still happen.
Such a weird thing. Rockstar 100-hour work weeks
that was like the start of the kind of, it was weird.
It was a lot of fuel for a fire for a discussion that was already happening.
Like this was always a thing that people knew, but it was in the lead up to like the biggest game of the year. It was a thing that would like if that was anyone but Rockstar, I am reasonably confident that studio wouldn't exist anymore, because like it was such a huge thing, and it revealed so much about what that studio is like. And again, it's not a thing of like, so I credit a lot of this actually to that Kotaku article that Steven Schreier did the work and like talked to a bunch of people and got all the comments from everyone across the globe and all of the studios. And the thing that kind of almost the cherry on top of how fucked a lot of this was it depended which studio you were in, depending on how fucked you were, because of the labor laws in those countries. So like the people that interviewed in the Edinburgh office were like, no, like we're fine. Like, we put in extra work, but like we go home at 6 and it's fine. Because as it turns out, the Scottish labor laws are pretty fucking good and stop you from doing that. But the US ones, not as much. and they couldn't even get in contact with, I think it was the China one or the India one, one of the two. Where you're like, fuck knows what that's like. If that's what they're doing. But yeah, it really pushed that conversation. Like even at E3, there's a lot of move towards. It was the start of the conversation about unionization.
Yeah.
And then the Telltale thing happened, which we'll talk about in a second, which added more to that.
Yeah, totally.
And then the Rockstar thing happened, which is like, no, this is like reason
look at what's happening. Yeah.
About why we need to do this.
Yeah.
And again, it was the kind of there was almost a naivety to how the original comments and then the follow up to those comments just didn't make it any better.
Yeah, they really didn't help themselves like in any way. Where they were talking about like the lead writer was like talking about how it was the core writing team that did it, and then they said something like, we don't expect anybody to work hard.
We don't expect anyone that's not us to work hard.
Yeah,
and you're
like that's not what you say.
No. Like you were doing so well, but no. And then also like, yeah, like on top of that, and then the part of the Schreier article, which was very, very strange, on top of him just getting comments.
Yeah.
Like, he got invited into the Rockstar offices, got in a meeting room and was like, we've got a bunch of people from around the world, said they can say whatever they want, and you can have a Skype call with them while HR's in the corner.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, and you're like, none of this is like the only. He says in the article, like, the only reason I was here is because this is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever done, and I just want to see what the fuck would happen when I did this. And like, the HR people or the press people going like, anyone can say whatever they want. This is a company wide, like that doesn't matter because these people need their jobs.
Yeah,
and you're just like,
they're not obviously not going to do that.
You're not going to do like this doesn't. Bizarre.
Then closing of Telltale.
Yeah, like more stuff on top of the union stuff of like, here's a company that people internally knew was not doing well.
Yeah.
But like for them to walk in on a Monday or a Friday or wherever it was and going, none of your jobs anymore. Your health insurance ends in a month. I know one of you just moved across the country to be here, but the company's no longer here.
Yeah, we don't have a company to buy. Yeah.
And it's like, what? Like, and then again, like more reporting and research and all this kind of stuff was like, no, like they've had problems for a while. Their financial, and apparently there was like 2 or 3 deals fell through. They were just like,
their funding deals fell through and stuff.
It's just like super bad management that management don't pay for.
Yeah.
Or they don't really affect them as much.
Yeah.
All these people are now out of work. And then layered on top of that, the Skybound, who now
they picked up
Walking Dead. Like that whole thing was again like the fucking entitlement of these people should come in and finish this game out of the love of the game. It's like, no, you don't understand how this works.
The idiots on the internet are
Oh, it was so embarrassing. It really was.
People should finish it because they should care about the product. It's like, but people also have to eat food.
Yeah, like they have to pay rent and shit.
Yeah.
So it'll be fascinating to see what happens after Walking Dead finishes with Skybound. Like, are they just now Skybound Games, the people who they hired to finish?
Do they get stepped on? Is on a contract
for 3 games? Like, what happens here?
And then the launching of the Epic Store, which was fascinating.
This was
a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, this
of like Epic coming out and saying, "Hey, we're launching a store. This store is going to have what's the split? Is it 80-20 or 60-40?
70-30 normally, and they went 80-20.
80-20.
Oh, no, sorry, they went 88-12. That's
88-12. In favor of developers, we're only going to take 12%. We can do this because we have all the Fortnite money. Yeah. We're launching our own store, better for developers. Hey, you get Subnautica for free. Yeah. And also, you can only get the next Super Meat Boy game, the next Super Giant game, a whole bunch of stuff all at once. Yeah. Leading to Steam having to come out and talk about... This was after Steam had come out and talked about their changes.
Steam had talked about their specific split change, which was they're staying at 70-30 until you hit...
It's like over $10 million.
Until you make $10 million, and then it changes in developers' favor.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's great, but 99% of people on Steam aren't going to get that.
And then the even more fascinating thing after this...
Which was interesting, because the Steam stuff was purely so that... the only reason they would do a move specifically like that is to stop Ubisoft and Activision from
going to their own stores,
moving stuff off Steam onto their
which
stores.
EA have already done with Origin.
Like,
so
Call of Duty is no longer on Steam.
Yeah. which seems crazy.
Totally.
But yeah, so it stops people like Ubisoft taking Assassin's Creed away and Siege and all these other things. And then even more fascinating. Oh Christ, what's the name of the thing?
GG.
No, the other one. Discord. Discord came out with their, I think, 90-10
No, that
split.
was GOG.
Was that GOG?
GOG doing it.
So now it's just become
Oh no,
this...
wait, sorry, no, maybe it's Discord.
I think Discord was the 90-10 one.
I will just check that.
It's now just become this arms race of various publishers now saying you can get a better deal on our platform, hey, let's go. And this might be the like final pull of the Jenga piece that means that Steam might topple, which is...
Well, it's like, it's going to take a while. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry,
obviously.
It's Discord that's 90-10.
90-10, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's going to take a while, but like, there needs to be a legitimate...
But this is like...
to Steam, because Steam has had such free reign to just fuck things up so badly that there needs to be something there that can offer some alternative and put some pressure on.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't know if you've used the Epic Store yet. Like, I bought Subnautica. Well, not bought.
You got it for free.
Subnautica. Like, it's does the base stuff like the same way that Origin and the Ubi Store do. Like, it does the basic stuff, but like, there's no community feature. There's no chat. There's no friends list.
It's not as all-encompassing as Steam
friend
is.
list, but there's features in Steam that they will actual competitor.
Yeah.
But like, having this stuff from the jump is...
It's a good start,
also,
and they certainly do have a not captive audience, but a lot of people using their launcher every day,
and more specifically, younger people.
Yes,
considering the target audience for Fortnite.
And it makes me really angry that you can't get Hades anywhere else.
Yeah,
because I really want to play Hades, and the fact that when that thing comes out of early access, it's probably still only going to be on the Epic Store.
Yep. So no, when it comes out in early access, it's coming to Steam.
Oh yes,
early access exclusive for that. But yeah, it's generally a good thing, but it's a good thing as a consumer, because now people are going to have to make decisions. Steam are going to have to make some decisions, but it does mean that I'm now running, or potentially running,
multiple clients.
Four stores, 3 of them being company specific.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy. Managing 7 friends lists.
Yeah.
Managing all of the stuff that was, like, it's kind of a pain. But in the grand scheme of things, it's...
Although for you, like, Battle.net is just the Destiny launcher. That's
basically the Destiny Overwatch launcher. But also,
might as well just say Destiny on.
Yeah, but like, you even like, and you look at stuff like Itch. Like, the Itch launcher is actually really good because it's well integrated, and it just but like, that's a really good launcher. But like, I booted up Origin for the first time in forever to do the Anthem closed alpha.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I booted it up, and it immediately crashed because it was so old, and I had to reinstall the launcher. Because I hadn't looked, and the same thing happened.
That's good.
The same thing happened with the Epic launcher. Is I launched the Epic launcher to get Subnautica, logged in, and it told me I had the wrong password, even though I could log into the website with the same password. Restarted it. It went, oh, there's an update for the launcher. Updated the launcher. Took my password, returned a weird fucking error that had no description on it. Like, uninstalled the whole thing, reinstalled it from scratch, and it was like, oh, this is totally different.
Yeah.
Here's a whole new, like, I hadn't installed that since I tried Unreal Tournament.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Okay.
So yeah, there's some stuff here.
So what do we do with the important news?
Man, I think the Epic Store stuff is important.
I think it's really important, especially for the future.
Yeah.
Because like, competition is just going to drive more and more like innovation or fights or whatever. But it's all, I think the fact that there is an Epic Store now is at a benefit for consumers, which is always good. Yeah. Right now it is. Yeah. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, but I mean, there are still some things with the Epic Store that, like, Steam have at least got, or did at least, I mean, they've burnt out most of their goodwill at this point.
Yeah.
But Steam have at least come out on the record and said things like, hey, if for whatever reason Steam goes away, we have a button we can hit so that everything becomes DRM free. Like, they've at least handled those arguments where, like, I don't trust, for instance, Activision to do that.
No, yeah.
I don't trust EA to do that. I trust Ubisoft a little bit to do that, but not much.
They still use de novo. I wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, not even that. Like, just for their store.
Yeah.
Like, I'm probably never going to buy anything on those game specific stores unless I really have to.
Totally. Yeah.
Because I don't trust they're like, hey, we're flicking this off now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have to when you get the Division 2.
To see what happens when there's another huge store up there will be interesting to see.
As much as I like the Cyberpunk reveal,
that's just
game
us,
trailers. Yeah,
that was exciting rather than important. I think the Telltale stuff has kicked off such a huge conversation.
The Telltale stuff or the Rockstar stuff?
I think both have, but like the Telltale thing was like such a shock.
Sure.
Outside that bubble.
That's fair.
And like a lot of the stories around it and like how this is going to happen, how it's such like a case in point. And then it also brings in like gamers entitlement, and it brings in like all of this stuff that's ridiculous. The last one, like I think the Overwatch League is important, but I also want to highlight the ArenaNet firings, and I don't know how to console the two.
I don't think the ArenaNet firings is. It's important, but it's more about the ArenaNet firings is more about shining a light on people, and being like, this is a bad thing you've done, and people not seeing it. That doesn't mean it's important news. It was just a bad event that happened.
But I mean, it was important news to watch, like to know that, to highlight that this is a thing that people believe, and that we need to not.
So the argument I would have is that I think that the plagiarism on IGN,
I don't think that's as important. I think it was just a weird blip that kind of came out of nowhere.
Sure, but it is still a bunch of reviews on like one of the most prolific video game sites
have just disappeared.
And are now people are being forced to work on that again for really old games, and it's just a weird situation.
There's no. I think for all of these, there's something about how this changes the industry.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that's. I mean, I think it was just this bizarre moment in the industry, but I don't think it's going to change anything.
Yeah.
And I think it also resolved well.
I would actually almost be tempted to put both Telltale and the Rockstar stuff up.
Okay.
Because they're similar things, but they're part of such a larger discussion.
The Telltale thing was like such a textbook definition of like why union is a good thing, and the Rockstar thing is like, here's the story of. You look at that story and you look at Red Dead and you're like, that's a game that has to come from this studio, because this studio still feels like this studio has not changed culturally since GTA. Felt like, where like, no, we are Hitchcock, we are Spielberg, we are building our thing, and like people want to come work with us, and of course they're going to work hard because they're working on Rockstar games. And there were moments in that the prior piece of like, no, people come and do this because once you've shipped a Rockstar game, you've got a golden ticket to go wherever the fuck you want.
Sure.
Which is true. But shouldn't be true, because I think those are the three. I would like to say, like, again, as a man who does not care about esports, the Overwatch thing was super exciting. It was like,
I feel like the Overwatch stuff would have more impact if the Overwatch League had gotten bigger. It did well, but it didn't like go into our dad going, "Hey, what's this Overwatch thing?" Like,
but I think it was the other thing about it was like, it felt like there wasn't. And again, I don't know how much of this was like, whether this was all there was backroom chatter about this, or whether there was like stuff I didn't hear about. But it definitely felt like it was the most. It wasn't marred by like the kind of petty infighting that you hear in a lot of esports stuff.
I mean, that did happen.
But like between individual people and like people calling out racist terms like the whole time.
there was a very prolific guy who got booted off a team for saying some really dumb shit.
Okay. Okay, never mind then.
I can't remember exactly what the dumb shit was, but it was some really dumb shit that he did say and get kicked off the team for.
But okay, fair enough. I mean,
Like esports is still esports.
Small steps. But it definitely felt
it's a step in the right direction. Yeah. I'll give you that.
Even if it's just structurally,
yeah,
be like we've seen some of the problems that Dota and League and things like that have had. We're going to solve them in very specific ways.
Yeah.
Like we're going to give you teams. We're going to integrate into the game.
Yeah,
these teams and all this kind of stuff. We're going to build some of the game around it, where it's like, here's this season's league in the client and all this kind of like. Yeah, I think it's cool, but I don't think it's the same as these three. So this is I think it's too early to call the Epic Store.
Yeah.
I think it's like
I think you're right. I think the effects of this are longer.
We'll come back to this time next year, I think, of being like, okay, how did I actually do it?
I think the Rockstar 100-hour work weeks thing was so big. Like,
it took on a world of its own.
Yeah, like it got mainstream. Like the news picked it up, and
it was interesting as well to like it highlights so many different areas of where watched like it's a weird situation, right? Because like if it was anything other than a Rockstar game, it would be interesting to see how that would affect the actual sales of the game.
Yeah.
Like you put a Rockstar game, of course, well,
it's gonna sell millions.
Can't then. There's no point in like, because there's a whole conversation that I had specifically like, which was like, do I even buy this game if I don't agree with the way it was made? Like, what is the thing I do? And then you talk to people and they're like, no, you need to buy it because people have put their literal heart and souls into it. Like,
they've worked hard
to support that if you're not supporting them, because of course they're going to be fine.
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. It was such a big thing.
Yeah,
and has such ramifications for like that people can take this and go,
yeah,
let's not have this happen again.
It shined a light on something that needed to be shined on.
So the only thing that's possibly pushing the Telltale thing above here is that I don't think Rockstar is going to change. Like, I don't think it has any future effect on a Rockstar thing.
I don't think the closing of Telltale is going to stop developers from closing suddenly either.
No, but that was such a focal point of like, here's literally the worst thing that can happen in the show.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's such a teaching moment as well, of being like, no, these people have got literally zero protection for this. Like, we can say all we want about Rockstar and how they work. Rockstar don't care. Like, Rockstar are like, well, we're going to put out GTA 6 and going to make millions. Like, fuck you. Like, there's such an inherent fuck you attitude in that entire studio that I don't think going back to them and then saying like, you realize all this is kind of fucked, right?
Yeah.
They're like, well, we're like already like they've said like
the answer is always going to be we're Rockstar.
Like again, like even the Riot stuff this year.
Oh yeah.
Where like initially when the big Kotaku piece went up about the internal workings of Rockstar, Riot,
yeah.
And Riot were like, oh, okay,
yeah,
right. At least made allusions to dealing
with
this.
Yeah, they put like a whole website and
like their first allusion being like, oh yeah, we've put our CEO on 2-month administrative leave with pay, and you're like, well, you tried.
That count, yeah.
But no. Like, at least there was at least some visual effect.
Yeah, Rockstar didn't really do anything.
And again, like, Rockstar are so media silent for this being one of the reasons.
Yeah.
We're not going to hear anything about whether this affected anything until GTA 6.
Yeah, true.
Or Billy 2 or whatever the fuck the next game is in 4 years.
Table Tennis 2.
Yeah, Table Tennis 2.
Yeah.
I haven't seen my child in 3 years because of Table Tennis 2.
To get the ball physics right.
Exactly. It doesn't quite ping the right way. Horse testicles.
I know.
I just be like, 100-hour work these brackets, horse testicles.
Needed to work on the scene where the ping pong shot that guy in the head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, the narrative.
So are we saying that the closure of Telltale is the most important?
I think it's the most.
I would agree.
Important one to focus on.
Yep. That's probably fine.
With the Rockstar 100 work weeks debacle, and
I really should have put this fucking Smash Brothers beef on this list just so I could talk about it.
Yeah, you told me about the Smash Brothers beef.
Idiots.
I mean, it's
dumb beef. People being babies.
It's a fighting game. Like, that's a kind of it is.
Yes, Telltale.
Yep. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
Cool. Cyberpunk was still fucking exciting.
It was a really good, yeah.
So, last two categories.
Yeah.
We have best soundtrack.
2 categories and a small discussion that we need to have.
Are we counting that other category?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, 2 categories and a small discussion.
A minor discussion that needs to be had.
So this is best soundtrack.
Brought to you by your friend of mine, DJ KK Slider.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, is he sponsored by?
This is sponsored by KK Slider.
Of course. So this is, in contrary to our original track, this is best body of music
overall soundtrack,
and can include licensed stuff.
Use of music, normal
music itself.
All encompassed into.
So in here we have Yoku's Island Express, Red String Club, Return of the Obra Dinn, Ni no Kuni 2, Celeste, Lethal League Blaze, Red Dead Redemption 2, Octopath Traveler, Far Cry 5, Pillars of Eternity 2, Deltarune, Into Breach, Graveyard Keeper, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah.
Question: is Deltarune a game?
Kind of.
Okay. So
it was.
I asked that specifically because it's not a game on its own. It's a trailer,
a chapter for a game.
Right. Okay.
I mainly just wanted to give it a name check because it wasn't gonna win, but Toby Fox killed it again. Okay. He is real good at making soundtracks. But yeah.
Yoku's Island Express is
a lovely soundtrack.
Great soundtrack, and also you want to talk about use of music. Music is in every part of that game, and kind of feels like it influences large parts of that game as well. It's a guy, the rare guy that did all the music.
Grant Kirkhope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think he's involved.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, wait, I may have totally made that up.
Yeah, I don't think that. It doesn't seem like a Kirkhope soundtrack. It's Kirkhope-esque.
Kirkhope-esque.
Yeah.
In its expression, and there's some variety in there as well, and I said, that final jazz track that we talked about in
the idea of the final villain of a game being jazz is kind of a cool idea.
Conceptual.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
Registering Clubs that I've talked about in a bunch of stuff like that, just it fits that world so well and really affects a bunch of the scenes in there. So.
Yep.
Obra Dinn is there for mainly use of music.
Yes,
because
that little the 2-note violin thing whenever you cut out of a scene is.
So when you cut out of a scene, and also I noticed this. They don't talk about it ever, but I noticed it. So when you've got stopwatch out and you're zooming into a body and the screen spinning in, you hit the other trigger to cancel it.
Oh yeah, I did that accidentally.
And it bounces back again.
I did that accidentally once.
Yep.
It was.
I did that a bunch of times to make sure it wasn't just a.
No,
fluke.
It's a thing it can do.
And
that the music that plays while you're in a memory or a vision or whatever is also
the other part of it for me was the tutorialization of the book, where it does the same thing that kind of
the boom, boom, boom.
So it does the same thing that Papers, Please does, where it kind of cuts off parts of the screen to show you a section.
Yeah.
And it'll do that with a couple of notes as it moves around, and it's just, the whole thing is very musical. It
uses its music very well. Its music is very sparse.
Yes.
But it uses it well. Yeah.
I think is why it's there. Ni no Kuni 2.
Oh, it's just lovely. It's just the soundtrack is just it matches everything so well.
Yeah.
And it's full of the with the track that we were talking about with the original song, that the overworld map. It's all very light and very airy, but filled with whimsy. It's
does it go beyond a RPG soundtrack?
I mean, not really, but every area has its own individual theme that are fitted to the environment. So when you go to the gambling city that I can't remember the name of, that's all Asian inspired. It has that kind of spin on it.
Right.
But it is a JRPG soundtrack. Okay. It's just it fits. It seems to use more uplifting strings and swelling to kind of get this kind of whimsical upbeat nature. Because nothing really bad happens in that game. It's all just very minor roadblocks that your plucky little band of kingdom makers all have to overcome. You and Lofty. Yeah. I love Lofty so much. If we had the best character category,
Lofty
was just great. Your little Welsh pixie is so good. Great.
Celeste. That's Lena Rain.
I can't remember the name, but yeah. Sadly, it's a game that didn't really click with me, so I didn't play much of it. But I have listened to the soundtrack a lot. The soundtrack is great.
Lena Rain.
Yeah, really, really good. Mixes between kind of your typical chiptune 8-bit stuff with some really good orchestral stuff, really good acoustic guitar stuff. Is it a good soundtrack?
My entire exposure to that game was watching the speedrun at Games Done Quick this year. And even then, like the sections where you're getting chased by your shadow self.
Yeah.
The music in that was really good.
Yeah.
Like just the drama behind it was.
It's a very, very good soundtrack.
Lethal League Blaze.
Oh, that's just a great.
It's a really good collection.
That's just a great electronic R&B grind out like album.
Yep.
That just plays over the top of just some amazing dramatic music.
I think a lot of people have tried to be Jet Set.
Yeah.
And that's the first one that succeeded.
Yeah. They've got it. They're so Jet Set. They got the Jet Set guy to do a song.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's just this great mix of electronic music and like drum and bass stuff, and that all fits the general theme of that Lethal League thing of just kind of like this backstreet game that these kids all play underground. Yeah, that kind of is just a great. And it is even isolated from the video game. Just listening to it as an album is great.
It's silly in the best way. Like it's ridiculous.
It's I sat and thought about it. The way I thought about it is that it knows exactly what it is, and it revels in it.
Yep.
It is just so joyous and cool. Cool's a word that is like, I mean the literal meaning of cool when it say that. But yeah,
stylish,
very stylish. A stylish album and a stylish game.
Red Dead. I'd see where you're going for with this. Like, I really liked the soundtrack. The
soundtrack is used really well, and the soundtrack is really. It's not what you expect.
No.
So it's not just the kind of like.
It's not just they took Western tracks, because like even in early on, like there's definitely they've taken the Western feel and
modernized it.
We've been talking for a while.
Yeah.
What's the phrase for
score? I don't know what you.
Composed. Thank you. It uses modern composition.
Yes, it does. It still uses
old.
Yeah, it uses the typical sort of like heavy reverb guitar, like slide steel guitar thing, but it does it over the top of like overdriven rock guitars, some synth work. Like it modernizes that sort of idea, but it's still it fits very well. It's still very Western inspired.
I also need to hear that track. The
Unshaken
the
song?
Mexican track.
Yeah, that is
Mexico track.
Powerful, especially when they flip it back and they play it again at the end.
Yeah,
it is real powerful. There's a lot of really good stuff in that soundtrack.
Octopath.
So that's the soundtrack I've listened to most this year. Really? Because it's a realization of that idea of let's take these old JRPGs and bring it forward into the modern age. Which is an idea they've said before in something like Bravely Default. With the soundtrack in Bravely Default, they gave it to the absolute mental case that is Revio, and he did his normal rock opera craziness with it, and it was awesome, don't get me wrong. But with this, they gave it to the composer and said, we need something that it's like when you were a kid, how you thought the JRPG soundtrack sounded like.
Got you.
So they made a lot of painstaking, and I've listened to interviews with the composer and stuff like that, where it's a lot of effort was into like, we need to make sure that all of these songs have really powerful melodies. That's all they had back in the old days. That they then built around the melodies. That lead into, just like I say, it's like when you sat down and played like Final Fantasy 7 or like 6 or something for the first time.
Yeah.
It's how you think that they sounded when you were a kid. Okay. And it's so powerful when that happens, because you see all these like really powerful melodies that are backed up by entire orchestras, like big string section, big drum section, and you heard it with the second act boss music and stuff like that, where it's more that they have this really powerful melody where it's all based on these high strings, but everything else backs it up with like really big drums. And
I like the idea of it being like the soundtracks you remember from those games. And
it totally is, yeah.
Far Cry. Did you play Far Cry 5?
No, I listened to the soundtrack a lot though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it all kind of that?
So there's a flip between the stuff that is on the radio, which is all like weird gospel stuff that has that spin, stuff like that song that we listened to in original track.
Is like narratively speaking that being broadcast by the cult?
Yes. Okay. So they've taken over the radio station and that's what's being broadcast. The actual normal soundtrack in it is just fairly stereotypical.
Okay.
I just wanted to highlight it for some of the stuff on that weird cult radio stuff is actually really powerful and really good.
That song we got earlier was real good. Pillars.
Just they made their own sea shanties.
Is it just the sea shanties for you?
Like the rest of the soundtrack is like your fairly typical CRPG stuff.
Right.
Like it sounds like a fantasy soundtrack. But the fact that they went to the effort of writing multiple sea shanties, they're not easy things to write because they're supposed to be like work songs, so they have to like have a very specific like beat and cadence. But they made their own sea shanties, but also made it so that the lyrics are from their world.
Yeah, I liked when you said that earlier.
As opposed to just taking sea shanties from our world that would work. They wrote their own. So like the one that we listened to, the Roll Barith's Wheel, is like talking about the cycle of reincarnation in that world. There are other ones that talk about like different cultures in that world and like the different aliens of the Deadfire archipelago, and it's just really clever. Like it was a small little thing that I thought was really great to put in a soundtrack.
Totally. Into the Breach. I'm surprised you didn't talk about this. I mean,
I didn't click with it as much as everybody else did.
Oh, did you not?
Because I think I beat it too quickly.
Oh, okay.
Like I beat it, I think the 5th time that I played it.
Really?
Like got all the way to the end. All 4 islands, beat the boss. Okay. It was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Didn't really. I get why people are just a really impressive thing. It just didn't click with me. Soundtrack's on the level of FTL of like that. It's got the right amount of tension in it to match the situations, but it is very ambient, which is what you want when you spend a lot of your turns in your own head, just really carefully planning this stuff out.
Totally.
But it's really good, but it is a very ambient soundtrack.
Okay. Cool. I mean, we've had soundtracks on here before that are like that. So.
Yeah, totally. The FTL soundtrack was on.
It's weird, like, to take a slight detour from soundtrack. Like, I'm looking through some of the games we talked about on here. Yeah. And there are a lot of games that I'm now looking at that are probably in like my top 5 or in this like list of everything we've played.
Yeah.
That like, I don't know really what category they would fit in. Were you looking like an Into the Breach?
Yeah.
Even if we thought that was the best game ever, like we ain't gonna mention that till Game of the Year. So like I think one of the things we need to work on for next year is like how do we get like a mechanics category in there?
Sure.
Like, I don't want to just say best gameplay because that's so
that's
wide.
Everything.
But there's something in there. I don't know.
Sure.
Graveyard Keeper.
It's just, again, it's kind of like Into the Breach where a lot of the songs are pretty ambient. They just stick in your head really well.
Right. I suppose you spend a lot of time with them
when you're doing all these like fairly not monotonous tasks, but like you're getting into a schedule and like a rhythm. The songs really stick in your head, especially when you like go from like day to night and you recognize that, and it's
like the 2-3 hours I spent with Stardew Valley was really good at that. Where like the morning track changing.
So yeah, the Stardew Valley is a lot more expansive, where it has like multiple songs per season and per. But this does the same thing that the Stardew Valley soundtrack does.
Smash Brothers Ultimate feels like it's cheating because it has every soundtrack.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So it has like every soundtrack ever, except for Final Fantasy, because I don't know why, but
licensing, I assume.
I guess, but they do original remixes of a lot of the stuff.
Right.
So there's there's a Mega Man 2 melody that is done by the Super Smash Brothers Orchestra.
Oh, really?
That is really good.
I need to hear that.
Yeah, and they do a lot. They do remixes of like Vampire Killer from Castlevania, and a lot. They do the effort. It's not just then collecting the soundtracks. They do the effort of remixing a lot of this stuff.
Fair enough.
It's really impressive, and like the standout for me is like they took the Smash Brothers song, like the theme to Smash Brothers that everybody knows, or people who play Smash Brothers know, and then just went full orchestra with it, and it has like full massive brass section, big like percussion bits that just make that it goes from like the melody that everybody knows to this grand, huge, you're ready for a massive stage fight kind of thing, and it's great. And they give it lyrics as well, and
that's cool.
They do a lot of work with the soundtracks that they have. So it was, I thought it was very impressive.
I also added X-Punks on the end of this.
It's a really good soundtrack.
It's a really good soundtrack, and the thing that surprised me as well is that like there's a bunch of tracks in there that are like only used in one level.
Yeah.
I like there's the track which has a Russian name, which is only used when you're like doing one of the Russian I think it's a bank level or something like that.
Yeah.
But also like the fact that you spend so much time with that soundtrack while you're just staring at the screen trying to think about your next move, and it doesn't get old.
Yeah.
Was kind of surprising to me. Like,
it looks well.
I expected it to.
Yeah. Did I play that game?
Probably.
Okay.
You should. Oh, I knew. Remember we were setting up for here, and I was like, "There's something I meant to put up as decoration."
Yeah.
I couldn't. I got the printed version.
Oh, you got the zines, didn't you?
I need to show you them at the end. They look awesome.
Okay.
Okay. So, what are you feeling is important here?
Octopath Traveler.
Really?
Yes. Okay. I think that it is a perfect execution on an idea that they've been having for a while, where like things like I Am Setsuna and things like Bravely Default, where they were like, let's try and do these old school RPGs again.
Setsuna was...
But, yeah.
Okay,
Setsuna, they did on a very small scale and had a very specific idea with what they wanted to do with the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Bravely Default, like I said, they gave the soundtrack to an insane person and he made it work really well. This is the first time they've actually sat and went, let's make a JRPG soundtrack like we used to make. Yeah. But how do we do it in 2018?
Right.
And they pull it off flawlessly.
Is Octopath isn't RPG Factory, is it?
No, it's Square.
Is it just
Square Enix, yeah. They pull it off without missing a step. Okay. Everything is great in that soundtrack.
Okay. I'm assuming Lethal League is up there.
I would like it to be up there if possible.
Okay.
Unless you have any arguments.
I'm scouting through stuff I'm kind of into here.
If it were me, I would say, like, I really like Exapunks and I really like Red Strings.
Yeah, Red Strings for me is probably higher than Exapunks, but I'm going to filter that out there. The interesting thing is like Obra Dinn for use, I think, is
very powerful.
Very good.
It's very strong. But the thing of it is, so I don't know because I've not got too far into it.
Yeah.
Does it vary? Or does it use the same things over and over again? Because they are good uses. It's just if it uses the same stuff.
It's the same things.
Because the music that plays while you're in a memory, well, good, I think got a little old for me, even in the small...
Up.
Okay, that's fine.
They change up.
Good.
Especially, and there's some really good moments as well where there's a particular chapter where you get it in chronological order, and it does build.
Yeah.
Like, as you go through each chapter, each part of the chapter, it does build in really interesting ways. But, like, again, for me, it's like, it's use of... It's them... It's Lucas Pope taking the fact that the Papers, Please logo would jump in time to the music and he's blown that out to a whole game where, like...
He's good with use of music.
Yeah, like every part of it just looks incredible.
So how do you feel about Yoku's?
I think it's good. I just don't think it really fits that game, but I think outside of the game, I don't think it stands.
Okay.
But again, I really like that end.
That one track is great.
And there's some really good... Just the music in it is generally very good.
Yes.
And it goes above just being good. It goes above just being average, where, like, I noticed it. I was like, oh, this is a really good track while I'm rolling this ball around.
Playing pinball. Okay. So what do we think moves down here?
5 years. We've got Octopath, Lethal League, Exapunks, Red Strings, and Obra Dinn.
Yeah. It sounds like you kind of want to drop Exapunks.
Yeah, I if I was to take between Exapunks and Red Strings, I think Red Strings is probably better suited. Yeah. Now that you've said, like, the Obra Dinn thing, like, once it's done, that
it does it very well, but it is the same use. And I do like when you click the watch and it does the little 2-note sting. It is very good, but
when you're running around the end of that, or once you've got all the bits and you're jumping between memories, you do hear it a lot, though.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we feel about that? We've got Octopath,
fine.
Red Strings.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. How do you feel about that? Is the question?
Yeah, I think you've made a convincing argument for Octopath.
Yeah.
And Lethal League, I'm with you. Like, you don't get something that sounds like that. Like that Big Nick track, I still listen to quite a lot as well.
Big Nick track's great. The Van Clean track is really good.
It's very, very good.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with Strings in third. Which would you put as first if you had to choose?
I mean, So, well, it's not just me. Like, I don't know what.
I mean, like, for me, like, I personally don't get anything. I mean, like, again, I didn't play Octopath, but I played the demo. Like, I don't get anything from Octopath that's not. This sounds like a JRPG.
Yeah, that's totally fine, but that's exactly what it is.
That's what
like,
it's trying
so,
to be.
Yeah.
I understand that. But for me, like, Lethal League hits every part of this category for me. It's just like, it's part of the style.
Yep.
Its usage in the game is good.
Yep.
It matches. It's good to listen to outside of the thing.
And I'm totally fine with Lethal League taking it.
Sure.
Like, I'm okay with it. Octopath was for me,
but it was.
I felt like, as someone who has played a lot of JRPGs, especially like a lot of like old JRPGs and stuff, hearing that and hearing them like do what they did and pull it off was just so great for me. Like,
being able to put a square ass JRPG soundtrack out and it not just be average.
Yeah,
is
stellar.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's Lethal League Blaze is our best soundtrack of 2018, with Octopath Traveler and the Red Strings Club being runners up.
Yeah,
cool. I've realised that I need to go back and probably play Red Strings again, because
it sounds like I should as well.
It was going to be in my top 5, but it sounds like actually the more I talk about it, the more it might be higher.
Yeah,
than I thought it was.
I should. I didn't play it, and sounds like I probably should.
You should play it. It's not huge. It's well worth an evening.
Is it what, like 3 hours, 2 hours?
Probably, but 3 hours.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.